More minutes. I see there are people that are still coming in. I'm excited about today's topic. So let's wait. Just give me another minute. Let more people to come in and then we can start. All right. Thank you. My name is Puseletso Modimogale. I want to welcome you to our third episode of Getting Dirty with Entrepreneurship. I am excited that today we are talking about everything mindset, everything emotions, everything resilient. I'm not alone, guys. As you know, these episodes, we don't do them all by myself. I have amazing guests as always. And I have a lady with me who I'm going to have a great discussion. Of course, we will give you an opportunity to ask her a lot of questions. But at the beginning of the discussion, we're going to mine her mind. She's going to help us understand how can we build resilience, especially in this space of entrepreneurship. Guys, COVID has shown us that we need to be innovative, we need to be resilient, we need to build mental strength, but most important, we are going to fail in delivering at our businesses because some of us, as you know, we one-man show in our own businesses. So when we are sick, our businesses also get sick. So we don't want that. We are bringing you this topic so that we can build your immune system, but most importantly, to build your mental strength and to build resilience that will help you bounce back, especially during these uncertain times and also difficult times that we get to meet through our journey in entrepreneurship journey. So I am excited that E Squared once again has brought this moment to us to come and have this afternoon of inspiration, afternoon of empowerment and transformation. I want to welcome at this moment my guest, who is Tepo Hope Mudise Harvey. And she is an amazing woman, and I got to learn one word today. She is an ontological coach. I am going to ask her, what does that mean? If you don't know it, like I didn't understand it earlier, she will break it down for us. But she's not just only an ontological coach, she's also a business and leadership development coach. So welcome, Tepo Mudise, and we are excited to have you with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Puseletso, and hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here.
As I've promised our guests, I'm going to ask you to break down the word ontological. What does that mean? And how is it relevant to us?
Yeah, so ontology is just a fancy word that talks about the study of being human. And I take it that everyone that's on this panel or everyone that's on this call is human. So really is a study of understanding ourselves as human and being accepting of ourselves as human, which can be a difficult thing sometimes. And as an ontological coach, the approach that I take is to work with how we use language to create realities for ourselves, how we then use our emotions and moods to also support us through that, and also to bring in the most important part, which is the body, which is something that I think in the Western education is something that is not really, that receives the attention that it should.
Yeah. So we've got the right person in the room. I'm excited. Let's start. I want to know, who are you? Just help us understand, who are you? What made you decide that I want to help people in this manner? I want to help people understand their mind, their emotions, and to better cope with life.
Okay, so first of all, I'm a mother and a wife. And I am a coach at the moment, really dabbling in the areas of business, leadership, and also I do one-to-one personal coaching. I had a long career in the corporate world and very much in retail, which, if anyone is in retail, is I think one of the most, I don't know what word to use, but very, very difficult industry. And what's interesting is I really got into business purely by chance. I always wanted to be a psychologist. So I studied and got my honors in psychology, tried to get into the practice, but I think I was still too young. It got overwhelming, and I got interested in human behavior, and business is very much around human behavior influencing that. And so I got into retail. So I spent 20 years in retail going through different departments, but my last responsibility was really being the head of merchandise and marketing in one of the blue chip firms. How did I end up here? I had always wanted to, and this will reveal my age, in my later days in my 40s, I thought I will feel strong enough to get back into psychology and help people. I've always been very, very interested in helping people to be their best resource and to be their best selves. And then I stumbled onto coaching, which then meant I did not have to deal with psychosis, but I could help people in a very different way and harnessing what they already have inside them and working with that to see how we can help them to take action and coordinate action with others. And that's pretty much my journey.
I hope everyone is excited to get to know you more, to know your story, to know your background, to understand what made you choose this career, because I still want to go deeper into understanding, amongst many careers that were available or presented before you, why this one? But I will ask you after this, because I want to engage with the audience. I see we have enough members in the room. I want to ask each and every one of you to tell me, what is your mood status this afternoon? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you don't know? How do you feel? Can you just give us one word that describes your mood for this afternoon? I want to test and see if the energy is high, if the energy is low, so that we can see where we start. By typing on your chat box, please give me one word that defines your mood for this afternoon. Let's see. Guys, come. You should tell me, how are you feeling this afternoon? Scattered. Daniel is scattered. And Elijah is keen. Okay, how is everyone? I have 18 people. I've got 2 answers. Can I have 16 more people to respond? I'll tell you my mood this afternoon. I am energetic. I am so energetic because I am prepared to have this discussion. And I know that I'm going to receive a lot from Tepo, so I'm excited. So Sipho is expectant and Bonolo is very curious. Okay, okay. How is everyone? Come Andres, come Audrey. Everybody, Kelly, how do you feel? Anxious? I've got Kensley, who is anxious. Okay, guys, we are going to have a discussion. This is not just me and Sipho. I want to hear more from you. Kelly's great, lovely, lovely. Andres, you are motivated, lovely. Matebe, are you trying? You are just trying. Does it mean that things are just not so great? You are just trying to cope. I love the way Leon is even putting it in alphabetical letters, putting it in bold letters. Wonderful. Lovely. I hear you guys. I feel like the room is lukewarm. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. How do you feel, Support? Do you think everybody is ready for you?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but that's actually quite interesting because it attests to what I'm going to be saying about moods and emotions. So it's interesting to see the responses and the non-responses. Yeah.
I get you. Don't worry. People are still warming up, and I hope everybody's got a glass of coffee, a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, whatever it is that you are drinking. So relax, sit back, but do engage with us because we want to get to know more. And feel free whenever there's a question that is in the mind, in the chat, or wait for us to open up for questions, and then you can ask the question directly to Tepo. So Tepo, can I take you back to the beginning when you decided to choose a career? What made you choose this one specifically? What is it that inspired you to become who you are today?
I think what inspired me to become who I am today was really having a need to understand myself. I pretty much, I grew up in apartheid South Africa. I pretty much grew up pushing, wanting to be a certain person and I suppose leading a certain life. And I ended up in retail at a very, very young age. And as I said, it's a very, very difficult industry. And I think towards the end of the 20 years, I found myself pretty much maybe being dictated to in terms of who I was and in terms of finding my identity. I remember after I left work, once I made that decision, I was in a post office and filling in some forms. And one of the questions was, what's your occupation? And I must be honest, I started crying because I thought, without my title, without my work, without all the accolades that I have in terms of what I've done, I don't really know who I am. So part of this journey was really connecting with myself, reintroducing myself to myself and really understanding what I'm about, all these things that happen within me and trying to put that into perspective. And part of going on the course, which I did a couple of years ago, was really around a self-discovery and learning. And after I learned what I learned, I thought this is something that's worth sharing with others because of what it did for me personally. And that's the quest that I'm on. As I coach people, I realize that we struggle with sometimes pretty much similar things, but we all have challenges in our lives. We all kind of need something that can steer us in a certain direction. And that's what I hope I can do for other people. Yeah. Or for others.
Oh, lovely, lovely. I believe you have been in the corporate for a long time and you then later into your full-time self-employment. How was that transition? Having been comfortable in your high-paying job and deciding that I'm going to now start my own business. How did you transition into that?
The transition wasn't easy. I did take probably about 2-3 years to prepare myself mentally. And I think the other things that I wanted to do was to really be responsible in how I did it. So I had a plan of when I would feel comfortable to actually step aside. And also, I think it was around what is important for me in my life. So, you know, I had done the hustle, you know, the fancy cars and all the things that you get with the corporate life, relying on the medical aid, the pension funds, and all those comforts. But there was something for me that wasn't fulfilled, you know. So with all of that, there was something missing. And I thought, well, let me step off and see if I can explore something else for myself. And I do believe that I am in my 50s. So in my 50s, I think I have found my second calling, and I'm very happy with the transition that I have made. Yeah, I think you get to a point where you say, what is important in my life? You know, I'm not saying money and all those other things are not important, but what really makes me tick? What really gives me fulfillment? And I believe that what I'm doing now does give me fulfillment. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. I just want to remind everyone that there's a poll that is happening now. While you are listening, kindly complete it. We would like everyone to participate in answering those questions. We just want to see and learn to get to know you better, but most importantly, to understand where you are experiencing some challenges in your entrepreneurial journey. So, well, I want, the other question I want to understand, especially because you said it, you are settled now. 2 years later, you are settled into the role of being an entrepreneur. But then what kind of mindset, or what does entrepreneurial mindset mean? What does it entail?
Yeah. So I've spent some time around this. So, you know, pretty much what I work with is mindsets, right? So we all have a mindset. And I think the trick is, are we aware of what mindset we're in, which is really the lens through which we look at life? And are we aware of what our mindset is doing for us? So is it helping us to be our best selves, or is it actually getting in the way of who we truly want to be? And then I looked at what is an entrepreneurial mindset, and the definition I got is a set of skills that enable to identify and make the most of opportunities, overcome and learn from setbacks, and succeed in a variety of settings. And I think I agree with that, because when you look at some of the characteristics of an entrepreneur or the entrepreneurial mindset, you find things like perseverance, you find things like curiosity, things like creativity. And I think perseverance, the one thing is learning from mistakes and not being afraid to actually face that and understand what that is about. It's also about lifelong learning, being open to learning, being open to a beginner, being open to say, I do not know. And I think it's also about collaborating with others. So coordination of action, And I think the reason why we do all of this is to do what? To be able to take action to bring about the possibilities that we see in life. And I believe without an entrepreneurial mindset, we can have all the ideas that we have. We can have people, you know, sowing into us, but without that self-belief, that confidence, and also being open to learning, it's probably almost impossible to then enter into that space. So very much around your state of mind, very much around how you are in terms of having the right conversation with the right people, very much about collaboration. And I think for me that, you know, when I think perseverance, I also think about resilience. And that's one of the words that we are looking at today in terms of how do we build resilience through that mindset. And there is a connection in terms of setting ourselves up to have the best chance of succeeding in that field.
Yes, no, that's very powerful. I just want, you know, right now I've been sitting a lot as well because I'm a coach with people who are going through a little bit of difficulty emotionally, looking at the status of businesses now. Many of them are losing businesses, especially depending on the industries that they are in. They feel themselves very affected by the changes that are taking place now. So for someone who is going through some hard time with business that is not doing so well, what can you say to them? How can you help them build the confidence and the hope of knowing that they can still make it work?
Yeah. You know, I spoke about the mindset, and I spoke about our way of being and the topic of moods and emotions. And speaking for myself, that's one area that I wasn't really comfortable with, that I think is key for being able to navigate some of the challenges that we have. So building emotional resilience, right? And also being able to, and how do you start with that? I think, you know, our Western education, I think, has vilified emotions. It's vilified moods. And the one thing we know is that moods actually predispose us to action. So without being in the right mood, without experiencing certain emotions, it's impossible to actually to be able to take actions. So for me, the thing that I would say is to start connecting with those areas that we tend to be quite tentative about. I mean, I'm looking at when you were saying to people, check in and tell us how you're feeling, right? It's very interesting in terms of, I believe that a lot of us, you know, including myself, do not have emotional literacy because we're not taught emotional literacy. I think we're taught very much around the mental. And so we stick very much in the head and the intellectual part of it. But emotions and moods actually predispose us to a certain mode that allow us to be certain learners, to be able to identify the difficulties that we're going through. And I think also to be able to be aware of what's going on for us. So taking the time out to identify what is really going on for us. Are we able to name the emotions that are happening for us? The one tool for me that has been very helpful is what we call the mood framework. And I'm happy to share this afterwards. I think this for me cracked my understanding and making friends with my moods and emotion and understanding how they can help me to be able to take action, but also not to take action by myself, but to be able to coordinate action with others. Because part of the entrepreneurial mindset is also about collaboration. It's also about reaching out to others, being able to ask for help if I'm not able to, or having the right discussions to enrich my journey. So with the mood framework, it really is a framework that looks at three things, really. It's around facticity. So facticity is things that are happening around us that we cannot change. So COVID-19 is a facticity. The fact that COVID-19 is affecting our lives, is affecting our economies, affecting our mental life, and that is a fact. So how do we then set ourselves up to be able to deal with facticity? And you would say, for the sake of what? That then helps us to be able to then look at our ability to see possibilities. So even during difficulties, are we able to see possibilities? And number two, one thing that I've learned is that change is actually certain, right? That's the one certainty that we have. So the one thing that we're certain of is that we are always going to be to deal with uncertainty. So what the mood framework does, it says, how are we placed in terms of dealing with facticity? Are we allowing ourselves to accept that certain things are the way that they are and we cannot change them? That doesn't mean that you are happy about the way things are, but how do we get in acceptance around what is that we cannot change? And so you have an option of saying, if I oppose facticity, I could get into a mood of resentment. I get angry about the situation. And the other thing is then, what does that predispose us of? Is to then to lash out, to shut down, to punish, and to blame. On the other side is that mood of making peace with what is. And making peace with what is doesn't mean that you're saying you're happy with the way things are, but you realize that there is absolutely nothing that you can do about the situation, but actually the only thing that you have control over is yourself and being choiceful in your response. So when you oppose facticity, the other thing that can happen is resignation. So where we resign and we get resigned and we get into a mode of feeling that nothing will ever change, no matter what, well, no matter what I try to do, things are always going to fail. And I've always tried this and it will never work. And what it does is that we tend to then self-sabotage, or we can sabotage others that are trying to do certain things. And that mood of resignation, we call the mood of yes, but. So you see an opportunity, but there's always a but. And as you know, a but always cancels something. Or we can get into a mode of accepting facticity and saying, yes, things are bad. How is it that I can get the ability to change things? So part of that is being able to believe that things can be different. And that I think the most important thing in that is that we can be different, right? To be able to take action, to do whatever needs to be done. And that's the mood of the yes and. It's never one thing, it's a mood of the yes and. The other thing is, when you oppose facticities, we can get, and that the reason that I look at resignation and ambition, the mood of ambition, is around what mood sets me up for seeing possibilities. So the mood of ambition says, yes, things are difficult. Yes, things are not going well. However, and there is something else that I can do. I can seek help. I can talk to other people. I can read. I can learn. I can collaborate. And you see yourself being able to take action as opposed to not being able to take action. And opposing facticity can also lead us into a place where we live in anxiety. And anxiety is that place where you live in constant fear. And I think the most dangerous thing about anxiety is that you actually see yourself in that situation. You live as if things have already happened. And when we're talking about entrepreneurship, it's the opposite of anxiety, which is around the mood of curiosity and wonder. And the mood of curiosity and wonder is not really about being a Pollyanna and just not considering, things that can happen, but it's that mood that says, I wonder what could happen if I did 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that mood of curiosity that then a lot of the entrepreneurs actually live in the mood of curiosity. What is out there, and when I get there, how do I build myself to get in there? And I wonder what that is going to look like, and being curious about opportunities. So that for me has been a frame. Sorry, Puseletso?
Upbringing. Sorry about that. I wanted to ask you, how does your upbringing play a role in this whole thing? How can we be, how for us to see, to raise our self-awareness? Because some of us are operating a blind spot of not knowing that there are certain things that I can do to change the situation or to change how I cope with life.
Yeah. I think that's a very good question, because each and every mood comes with, there's a language, there's a story that we're telling ourselves that's connected to the mood. And I think when you talk about upbringings, is what are the stories that are running in the background, or basically what are the stories that are running us that keep on getting in our way of succeeding? And I think it's that awareness of maybe the courage of being able to sit down with oneself to look at where I've come from, what might have contributed to how I am in my mindset. There's a belief that families have got moods. So I might have a mood of my family where I'm being told things like, Oscar Papa, you'll never be able to do that. Who do you think you are? So those things can feed into how we see ourselves. So it's very important for us to be able to take the time out to think about the assumptions that we're holding as facts, that are merely assumptions or opinions that we have of ourselves, and think about where those opinions might have come from. Some of us hold ourselves to certain standards, but those standards might not even be our own standards. They might be the standards of our parents, or something that someone might have said that then influences how I see myself. So really it's to question mostly the negative assumptions, the negative opinions that I have of myself. And it's not really of yourself, but it's really of the world, because you operate within a world. Yeah, so your upbringing is quite important, and I do think we all have histories, and I think it's imperative that we challenge those histories, that we look at those histories and look at what is serving us in our history and what is actually working against us.
That's beautifully put, and thank you for explaining that further. I don't know, guys, if you have questions, please feel free to post them on our chat. And I see Megan has got her hand up. She says, Sharp, are you, is there a question from you, Megan? Okay, she has put her hand
No,
down.
I just want to say I'm learning a lot from this. Thank you. It's going well.
Thank you so much. Let me also understand our surroundings, because one of the factors that is influencing us either positively or negatively is the surrounding that we are in. How can we rise above the negativity of the surroundings that we stay or we work at or we operate under, especially as enters different industries, we meet different challenges due to the surroundings or the people that we interact with, whom sometimes we find ourselves being stuck and not being able to rise above those challenges.
Yeah. So the one thing that I think is quite key, Puseletso, is the whole, and I know that's been the buzzword in 2020 with COVID-19, is around the whole thing of mindfulness. So do I take time to understand what is going on for me? So in all the noise, do I actually step aside to think about what is going on for me? Do I get involved in things that I probably shouldn't get involved in just because everyone is concerned about a certain things? Does that mean that I have to get involved? So to ask the question, what is important for me? So what is my main concern, and what do I need to bring about for myself? And what is it that I need to do to get to that? And part of it is having certain practices where I have, I spoke about the way of being around language, being around body, the body, mood, and emotions. Am I aware of the language that I'm using and the reality that it's bringing about for myself? Am I aware of the mood? So what is my predominant mood? So if I live in a mood of resentment, it's going to be very easy for me to latch onto the negative and not to be able to pull back. So it's just an awareness of certain areas that can enable me to be able to be my best self. And I think part of that is, how do I use language to help myself? Am I able to make requests? Do I treat my assumptions as fact, or do I ground them? Do I question them? When I hear people or rumors or fake news, do I latch onto that, or do I actually question and then say, how is that relevant to me? How does it serve me? And the other thing is the question to ask, for the sake of what? For the sake of what am I engaging in this? How is it going to serve me? And if it's not serving me, why do I continue in that vein when it actually isn't helpful? Is this a shift that I need to make? Is there a way that I can improve how I communicate and connect with others? And is there a mood that I can start adopting and developing to set me up to be able to, especially in the entrepreneurial world, and you spoke about COVID-19, things are tough. So how do I help myself to be the best resourceful person that I can be? And, I spoke about moods and emotions, and part of it is we have an issue with the moods, that we've been taught that there are good moods and there are bad moods. So moods are all the moods that we have a purpose. And I think if we learn to understand what our emotions are telling us, what our moods are telling us, then we'll be able to then, purposefully, and I say purposefully, and be able to then move and try and shift to areas where we can actually help. I think the best resource is yourself, and how do we build that? Yeah.
Is it easy what you are talking about? Is it something that, how do I set intentionality for me to acquire what you are talking about, to be aware of my emotion, to use my emotions to build my resilience? Because I tend to believe that if I have never practiced or I have never used the techniques that you are talking about, where do I start for me to start coping, or for me to build this resilience?
Yeah. So I think resilience requires us to be agile. And part of being agile is, to be able to be flexible, right? And I think part of that comes with when we can sit down and actually begin to notice what is going on with our emotions, because I think sometimes we live through life and we hardly ever stop to say, what am I feeling? How am I feeling? And the first step is really around making friends with our emotions and our moods. And also is to be able to then say, can I name those moods and emotions? Do I know what they are? And what is the purpose? What are they telling me? And I think the other thing is for us not to run away from those moods and emotions, but to be able to sit in and inquire, for the sake of what am I going through this? What is the learning? And then to say, what are the helpful shifts that I can make? I think we all have strategies of when I'm in a mood that's not helpful. And I think it's helpful to then say it's not a good mood or a bad mood. It's a mood that's unhelpful or is helpful, right? It's a mood that's helping me to be my best resourceful self or not. And when I identify that mood, what is it getting in the way of? What is at stake if I continue to be in a certain mood? What is a mood that can be helpful for me? I think, part of this, I think it's not really like a mystery, because I think we've all gone through adversities. I think there's been times when we have difficulties. Can we tap into those times and see how we came through? What actually worked for us? I think we all have different ways of tuning into helpful moods. Some people walk, some people dance, some people take a call, talk to someone, some people will read, some people will Google more around what's happening around them. But I think the trick is to be able to be flexible enough to shift. So with that awareness, to have the courage to try something else, rather than wallowing in that one place that is not helping you. And the question again is, how is this serving me, right? How is this helpful in terms of me being able to achieve what I would like to achieve? And if it's not, for the sake of what would I continue in this? And again, is to reach out, is to ask for help. Sometimes we cannot navigate our lives on ourselves. There's counselors, there's coaches. Some of us have got people that are wise women and men in our lives, mentors that we can reach out to. And it's not to try and journey by yourself, but to be able to have the humility to say, I cannot do this one by myself. Can I then, go to someone else? Somebody says journaling helps a lot. So when you find that thing that helps for you, that helps you, is to really lean into that, but also talk to other people and say, hey, I am going, because I think the one thing that COVID-19 has done is that it has almost normalized certain things like fear and anxiety, and we're worried, so we can relate to those emotions, say, how are you navigating these times? In your network, I have a network of women, and we get together twice in a month, and we have different topics, and we're real about what's going on in our lives. And we are there as a support system for each other. And we also share how it is that we are navigating these difficult times, because I think there are very few people that are not having difficulty dealing with the uncertainty. The one thing about human beings is we want to know, and we want to have a level of uncertainty. And the minute we are faced with a situation where we do not have a level of uncertainty, it's very unsettling. And I think part of it is some people might not be having financial problems on that, but just the not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow, or how things might turn up for me, becomes a big issue. So we all have worries, different levels of anxieties and concerns. And sometimes it's just reaching out. And as I say, what has worked before, talking to someone. And as someone said, journaling. Some people go into yoga or mindfulness. So there are different things that we can do.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. And indeed, we all have things that we can use around us, whether it's being around family members, whether be taking a walk in the morning or taking your dogs for a walk. Definitely that can be something that shifts you out of your focus and help you to center yourself and recharge your soul. There is a question in our chat. It's coming from Elijah, and it says, how can an entrepreneur deal with imposter syndrome?
Okay, so that's a very good question. I think we live in a world that almost does, where we diminish, and I call it legitimacy, so, right? So the one concept that we talk about is the concept of seeing yourself as a legitimate other, right? And not minimizing ourselves to be seen in a certain way. And part of legitimizing myself is authenticity. I do believe that part of the problems that we are experiencing is really around a lot of people are living other people's lives, right? And I saw a quote somewhere which I thought was quite beautiful, and it says, be yourself because everyone else is taken. So I believe that when we are authentic and we connect with who we truly are, and I think that's where confidence comes from, in terms of this is who I am, what's and all. I am not going to try and be someone that I'm not, and really feeling that comfort level within yourself is when we can deal with that imposter syndrome. I think part of it really is, are we even aware of when we are living someone else's life? It's part of their awareness, and maybe asking ourselves a question, what is the reason that I would like to live or be like someone else? Because then we are able to get to the bottom of what the issues are, and then we can start dealing with that. But I think if we do not have the awareness or the courage to admit that I'm not truly myself and I'm not comfortable in my skin, I don't think we can start that journey. So it really is the courage to start the journey, and also like try and see, how does it feel to live as your true self and to live through other, because I do believe if you're an imposter, you will be found out. And I do believe that when I am my authentic self, and it's like maybe falling in love with myself, and as I said, discovering who I am and those things that make me unique, and appreciating that, then I can walk in my own stride and I don't need to be like anyone else.
That's so
that
powerful.
Answers the question.
Yeah, no, that's so powerful. Everybody, you should be yourself, because that's who you are. The other thing about being yourself, we tend to be very scared to express ourselves, to speak our mind, and also to let people know our thoughts, because we were conditioned to follow others. We were conditioned to always conform, especially, we come from different cultures that are different behaviors. So now I'm aware that I haven't been authentically myself, and I would love to start expressing myself more, to voice my opinion and to express myself more. How can I then change that kind of mindset? How can I even shift and become comfortable? Because that shift is not comfortable.
Yeah, and I think that's why I use the word courage. And I think it maybe it's sometimes it's baby steps, because I believe in when, as human beings, in part of the shifting, right, there are things that we preserve that are worth preserving, that have worked for us, and there are things that we need to do in order to be able to transform. So it's not a matter of changing overnight and becoming someone else. I think also, like the authentic self, first of all, do I have an idea of who I am, and how do I begin to maybe go to a point where I was comfortable with who I truly was. As a young girl, when I was growing up and I hadn't gone into this world of, I work in the space with students who are in, say, private schools or where their culture is different. And part of their difficulty is we want to fit in. right? And fitting in means assimilation. I think the question is, in assimilating, what do I lose? And I think that's a big question. And the other thing is, what do people lose from seeing my true self? Because I think we learn from each other, we exchange experiences to enrich each other's lives. What am I robbing myself of, and what am I robbing the next person of when they don't see who I truly am?
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I love, there's another question that I think is taking us back to what we touched on, but I would like you to perhaps answer it again. It says, how should an individual mentally prepare for the switch between corporate and full-time entrepreneurship?
Okay. I think part of the switching, right, from corporate into entrepreneurship is to be real about what that switch means. And I think that's part of what I did. I think the difficulty can be when we just jump out into entrepreneurship and look at all the shiny bits around, I'm going to have this title of a business person, and I'm going to have this, this, and that. I believe that preparation is key. And I believe that learning about what you're about to jump into is key before you jump. And I also believe that doing the work of preparing yourself, and maybe that's through a coach, through a counselor, through reading certain books about what is entrepreneurship about, right? Maybe speaking to some entrepreneurs about what their journey has been, because there's a lot of learning in talking to others. There's a lot of books out there, but I think part of it is to know yourself, that you have looked through all the pitfalls, through all the risks. I believe we need to calculate our risks. And I think we also need to be quite realistic about the journey that we're about to take. Know that there are going to be some sacrifices. Things are not going to be the same. What are those sacrifices? What am I willing to sacrifice? And what's your backup plan? What's my backup plan? And what is your support network for you to be able to leap into entrepreneurship? Because I mean, it's you said some of us are running one-man shows. When you're sick, there's no work. When you're sick, there's no income. What does that actually mean? Am I able to harness support from others to say, so I sat down with my family and we mapped out everything. So, so what was I going to lose by leaving my career? What was going to be the stopgap? And mentally, I went through about 3 years of really preparing myself before I could leap. Part of it was talking to different people. Part of it was going through with a coach and really working things out. And part of it was getting counseling from people that have done it before, especially, I would say, people that are specialists in the area that you're trying to get into. Because I think entrepreneurship is quite a wide thing, but I think there might be nuances in different industries that you're leaping into. Yeah, but I would say just to be prepared, and also not to be scared to ask questions and to ask for help.
Yeah. One thing that entrepreneurs really have to learn is to be vulnerable, because they sometimes take vulnerability as a weakness. And for programs such as what Is Great is to help people to cope and to manage their businesses. And when they're not vulnerable enough to say, I'm struggling in this area, they're unable to provide resources or support them appropriately in order to capacitate them with what is needed for the business to thrive. So I love what she's saying. She says that she thinks being authentic means accepting that not everyone will like you and to be comfortable with that. Why is it that as human nature, we really want to be liked by everyone?
So as human beings, there is that whole need of belonging, right? We are wired that way. You are born into a family, there's connectivity. There is something called structural couplings, which is we've got cognitive groups that we find that we want to belong to, be it a soccer team, be it a tennis team, be it, like I said, a group of women that I'm with, we are wired to have that sense of belonging, right? And I think when we feel that there's a threat to being accepted or to being part of something, that's when that whole issue of being an imposter or not wanting to take risk for people to know who you are, just in case, I think there's a fear of rejection. It's a real thing. We want to be liked. We speak a certain way, we dress a certain way so that we are acceptable in a certain way. And I think I admire those people that say, this is who I am. You might not like my dress, you might not like my hairstyle, but I'm here. And they own this space. I always have an admiration in that. I think those people can walk in and say, this is who I am. The one thing is that all of us have warts, and I think part of what attracted me to this study or to ontological coaching is how it makes being human acceptable. I do not have to be perfect. I will mess up. I will make mistakes. I might say things that I come back and regret, but that's part of being human. I might just, we are assessment making machines. We're always making assumptions. Are they always correct? No, but that's how we're wired. We are emotional beings. We almost are, we always are in a mood and there's always an emotion that we have. But, but does that mean that an emotion has to run me? Absolutely not. There is emotion and mood management that I can do. And part of that is learning who I am, what works for me and what doesn't work for me. And I think also accepting, so there could be like as many people that like you as people that do not like you. There's no guarantee. Whichever way that you do, there will always be naysayers. I don't think you can guarantee for sure that people are going to like you. So taking that pressure off of trying to, to be liked. Yes, belonging is key. And I don't think, you walk around and act in a certain way that will not make you either socially acceptable. And then I'm not talking about, being deviant or anything like that. However, I think we still have to be true to ourselves. We still have to be true to who we are. Yeah.
Not true, while considering other people's feelings as well, because I do that to be accepted for who we are starts with you also accepting others for who they are, and which is is the most difficult thing for us to do as entrepreneurs. When we hire staff in our businesses, somehow we want to change them to be who we are, and we forget we need to hire the difference so that we can all come with our difference to create magic. So how is it that for someone who is always in their thought of, I need things to be done this way, unable to change into accepting that people have their own thought pattern, a way of doing things that is acceptable as well for them to express it the way they see it fit? So how can I, a leader or as an owner or as a manager in my own business, be able to understand the diversity within my team?
Yeah, I mentioned the concept of legitimate other, right? And that's a concept of legitimizing other people. And that's about respect. And it's also about considering the dignity of others. And what does legitimizing others do is that it says then we don't take our opinion as the truth, and the fact that it leaves us open to learning from other people and accepting that we don't know it all. I think the one trait that I think is quite helpful for people is humility. And I think humility says, I'm not everything, I'm not Miss Know-it-all, and to also be able to let other people shine and also have the ability to say, I do not understand, or I do not know, or I need help. And I think what sometimes happens is in that desire to shine, we then also mask our vulnerabilities. We then mask our own insecurities by always wanting to be the one. I believe that a leader is as good as their team. And I think that, one of the things that I learned, certainly as in my corporate life, is hire people that will make you shine. You do not know everything. And also to give credit to others. And I think also to know that, to be open to the idea of being a lifelong learner. You don't know it all. And I think every circumstance, everyone can teach us something. How open are we to being taught by others? Are we aware of something that we call enemies of learning? Those things that come up that say, I cannot learn from this person. What do they know? I know better, I know more. I'm more educated, I'm prettier, I'm funnier, I'm this and that. So, there is no humility in that. And those things become what we call enemies of learning. They stand in your way of learning, either from life experiences or from others. So are we aware of what those enemies of learning are? And I can share the list with you, Puseletso, after this. That has been very helpful for me to build an awareness of, I can feel it when it comes up, when someone goes on stage and you look at how they're dressed or whatever, and you think, no, there's nothing I can learn from this person. We're to be always open to learning from others, and legitimizing them.
Lovely. So now, as an entrepreneur, how can you tell if I'm being resilient? How can you say this is a resilient person? What are the characteristics of a resilient person?
So funny enough, I actually looked at that, at what are the characteristics of a resilient person. And there was something around, resilience means agility, right? It means being able to bounce back. It means to have that, so it doesn't mean that the person never ever experiences hardships, but is how do we learn from those hardships and how do I bounce back? And I just want to look at what I had here in terms of the characteristics. And so there's something around having a sense of control. Right? I know things can get tough, and when we lose a sense of control, we're all over the place. And when we're all over the place, I believe we lose focus, right? And I believe that we lose perspective. And I think that can get in the way of being resilient. So how do I, amidst all the issues that are happening around me, still have that locus of control within me, right? That doesn't mean that I'm not experiencing hardship, but I can, it's almost like pull yourself towards yourself. And it's another thing around, where the emotions come in. Do I realize that I'm frazzled? I'm all over the place. And again, the question, how helpful is this going to be for me, right? Problem solving skills, am I able to see the situation and say, oh, this is what I could do to apply this? And part of it is not having the answers yourself. It could be hearing from other people around, what is it that I can do to deal with the problem that I have? And strong social connections. I mean, I can't, I can't begin to stress how important that is, because there'll always be somebody that knows something that I do not know. And or they might actually be able to help me to pull myself towards myself, right? And I think the one other thing is to be able to ask for help, that vulnerability. I think there is resilience, there's strength in being vulnerable. To say, I can't do it anymore, or I can't cope, I need help, come to my rescue. I think it takes courage for us to be able to say that. And those are some of the things that I can say are some of the qualities around resilience. And I think that's quite a lot. But I think for me, it's bouncing back. It's that being able to bounce back and agility. Yeah. And I think belief that things can be better. I think mood of ambition of things can be better, and that curiosity around when things are the way, when they are better, how am I going to feel, what am I going to be doing, what is it going to look like? Because that gives you hope. I think part of being resilient is being hopeful.
No, that definitely that. I want to say I had a personal trainer, right? And when I remember him, he used to say, don't let pain change you, because the more he make me do so much exercises that are becoming too painful, and I can tell he has pulled me to a point of tearing apart, like I'm about to die. And then he'll keep on saying, don't let pain change you. And I used to hate him for that. Whenever he said that, something in me wasn't sitting well, because I'm thinking, this guy is killing me. And then he tells me not to let pain changes me. So now, as an entrepreneur who has tried different concepts, different businesses, and who has actually put their own resources, their own money, and really did not succeed in it. And when you say bounce back, how can I keep on bouncing back when the pain is so strong and I feel like I have no strength or energy to even pull myself up again?
Yeah, I think the whole thing of pulling yourself to, it's a simplistic thing. So of course, I'm not saying kind of like snap out of it. I don't believe in put on your big girls panties and just rise up, because it's not as easy as that. But I think that bouncing back is realizing where I'm at, right? And realizing that there's a difficulty. Of course, if you lose money, it's very difficult to say if you bounce back, you're going to make the money that you made before. But sometimes it's rebuilding yourself. It's finding those resources that help you, at least to give you a chance to be able to see possibilities. Because what happens with certain moods is that they can actually stop us from seeing possibilities. So that I spoke about the mood of resignation. That, so being aware of what is actually happening to me. So if I'm living in a mood of resentment or a mood of resignation, it means I haven't accepted what has happened, right? There are things that happen that we cannot change. If I lose a business, fact is that business is gone. And once I'm able to accept that and make peace with it, not to say that it's okay and that you're happy about it, but it helps, the mood of acceptance, the launching pad, to be able to be hopeful, to look at what else can be done, right? And if I stay in that state, and sometimes it's not really that you can pull yourself out, it's kind of, where can I get the support? Where can I get the help to help me navigate myself out of this situation, right? And I saw something that says something around a start. It said, there's something around, no matter how many mistakes you make or how slow you progress, you are always ahead of someone who isn't trying. It's just those baby steps. How can you reinvent yourself? How can you restart? Are the things what are the learnings from your experience? Are the things that you can discard? Are the things that you can restore? So I think it will take some soul searching and spending a lot of time with yourself. First of all, identifying what has gone wrong, because I don't think you can fix anything without knowing what might have happened, be it your issue or someone else's issues. I think it begins with the understanding thereof, the acceptance of things have happened and I cannot change it, but what is the best mood that will then set me in terms of being hopeful, and what support do I need to be able to move forward, and understanding that it's a process. So, so when I talk about a shift, it's not like you wake up and you're fixed. It's a process. And I think that's where the whole thing around perseverance comes in. There are things that you might have to persevere through and understand that it's a process, but to have that courage to stick with it, to get to where you need to. And I think, as I said, ask for help, talk to people. And I think someone said self-reflection, spend some time understanding what has happened. Sometimes we are part of the problem, or the biggest part of the problem. So what is it that I might have contributed to this? And what are the learnings so that I don't repeat the same mistakes? And talk to people that have gone through the same situations. I think learning and being open to learning and really being honest with ourselves. I think I was talking to a coachee this morning who was saying that's quite a difficult thing, to look at yourself in the mirror and to be honest with yourself. I think what I'd like to stress though in this process is self-compassion. And I think no judgment, because I think when there's no compassion and we're judging ourselves, then it makes the process quite difficult. So holding the situation lightly and being compassionate with ourselves.
No, self-sabotaging behaviors is one of the things that really blocks us from progressing in life. And sometimes we do run away, like a thought that comes through that says you are not good enough, or you are stupid. You can't do that. And you start imputing to a point that you start believing the truth in it. And yet once we are aware some of the self-sabotaging behaviors, we are able to remove them as obstacles that are standing before us and that are hindering our progress. I love what, just going back to the comments on the chat section, Lindy Nsapo was talking about, you remember you spoke about journaling. That is one of the things that people would also do. She said journaling a lot. I'm actually curious to talk to her a bit. Lindy Nsapo, are you here? Can you open your mic? I just want to ask you, when did you start journaling and how has it helped you?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Lindy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Are you journaling and when did you start and what made you start journaling?
Yes, I started when I was in high school. So I started with goal setting and just basic lifestyle design, where I want to go to in my life, where I'm at, and how do I get to the next chapter of my life. And then when I was in uni, I got into depression. And so my psychologist used to give me homework to deal with the thing that I was going through at the time. So that helped me make it like a part of my life. So I journal almost every day just to check in. It helped me a lot with self-awareness. Even when I'm like around people and I'm feeling some kind of emotions, I can look at what am I feeling, how am I feeling, why am I feeling like that? Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Do you ever get to go back to what you wrote from the beginning and compare your thought pattern at the beginning and to where you have transitioned to now?
Yeah, it also helps a lot with that. I do that every quarter. I look at what I like the goals I set or what I was thinking at the beginning of the month. I actually have my business is about that. So I also help people get into like the right mindset, especially like digital creatives and entrepreneurs. So I have like digital workbooks that people can purchase that helps you with lifestyle design, planning, journaling, basically. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your contribution. I'm going to open my. Are you here? I want to talk to you, especially about we must not try to lose our authentic selves in pursuing our business ideas. What do you mean? Can you elaborate more?
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Cool. This is first of all, this is really empowering session. I could not have thought of attending anything else really at the start of this year because I don't know about everyone else, but I just felt like we've just being hit by a barrage of just challenges in this current period. But going back to I think the question around authenticity and entrepreneurship, it's something that I've noticed. It's we in South Africa, obviously for very many reasons, entrepreneurship is on the lips of everyone. We know that it's among the most potent sort of like tools at our disposal to try and deal with some of the challenges that we have as society. But in that, I think that we end up sometimes getting pressured, Puse, to just take on versions of entrepreneurship from different places, different mindsets, different people, and almost like try to just put that on top of ourselves. If you almost have to be actually very cautious and intentional about making sure that your particular personality, because in what I've noticed as an entrepreneur coach is that the people that you deal with, the people that you sell to, the people that you partner with, they are invested in you, the person. You, the person, are the holder of that which excites them. But the moment that you lose sight of that, you actually diminish your ability to be successful, because it comes through. I don't know how to explain it, but it comes through when something is really connected to who Puseletso is, to what she's trying to achieve. It makes it more attractive for me to want to do business with her. And this is some of the things that where this imposter syndrome comes through, because we get exposed to, you know, Shark Tank and all these things, and we think that now we must approach, you know, we must use this language, we must take this postures and all that stuff. And you know what, we you know, it's not us. It's probably not even the culture of the people that we're trying to sell to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
Sipa. Sorry. No, I just wanted to chime in there. I think, you know, Sipo, you said something around the whole thing around authenticity and knowing who we are and what we would like, you know, it's almost like understanding the offer that you would like to be to the world. And doing that takes work. And I think, you know, when I was growing up being a business person, I thought you go buy stuff, sell stuff, and then, you know, your turnover is your profit, but there's a lot that goes into it. And I think as much as we prepare ourselves, you know, with strong business plans and we get finances and that, I think there is something in investing in ourselves, you know, in building ourselves and that whole connection to our true selves and who we want to be. So understanding ourselves first and then saying, what unique offer would I like to be, to the world, you know? So that takes away that edge of being like someone else. But I find sometimes imposters are people that don't want to put in the work, or it's easier to be someone else than to try and face certain, to do the work and put in the work of then defining. And sometimes you get reintroduced to yourself, because I mean, I think there are, I can't say I've always been true to myself in this, because sometimes circumstances dictate that you become a certain way. You know, if you think about the corporate world, you assimilate, you know, there's a culture of my company and this is how so you can lose yourself. And how do you take the time to actually reacquaint yourself with yourself? And I think that takes the work that I'm talking about. Yeah.
I agree 100%. I think actually you've put it the way that I wanted to state it. It's really about being able to be aware when you are losing that authenticity, when you are even delegitimizing yourself in knowingly, you know. But yeah, I think all these things, the way I'm hearing them and the way that I've experienced them, is that we need to be open to growing into these qualities and attributes. It's not, again, for someone on this call to sort of like say, oh my gosh, you know, Lindy is journaling, and you know, I don't even have a sense of of understanding how I actually recognize my own emotional state and all that stuff. But is to say Lindy is journaling, this sounds like something that could be helpful. You know, she's got some notebooks. I think I need to get onto a call, after this call here, and maybe grab myself one so that I can start on my own journey, because we have to be comfortable with the journeys that we're all individually on.
Yeah.
Thank you so
much. That is so beautiful. I think one of the things that I wanted to tell you about that I personally do in the morning, because I've realized that I need to anchor myself with powerful words that I will sit on for the day and hold on to. Even when I feel like I'm deviating from something, I will always take myself back. So I've got a jar like this one that has a lot of affirmation, or they've got words that I would pull up in the morning and I would read. Like, for instance, this one specifically, it says, when you are going through a challenge, learn to speak or to seek counsel, and do not die alone in silence. And every time, whenever I do that, when I could tell that there's something that is eating me inside that I'm suppressing or I'm not speaking, I always remind us that I need to speak out so that I can go to relieve myself from whatever negativity that or whatever that I'm going through. So we have the last 15 minutes of today's session, and I would like to give an opportunity to any entrepreneur that is going through a moment or having certain things that they seek clarity on. I mean, let them take this opportunity to have 2 coaches in the house that can assist you. So let's have this last part as your coaching session. So is there anything that you would like to be helped with, that you would like to put on the table and be able to be helped with? Because this is one moment perhaps that you have been waiting for in order to navigate or to overcome that obstacle in your personal life or in your business life that you would like to express. So I would like to believe this is the safe platform. Should you want to express yourself, feel free to do so, and it will, I'm not sure, but remember there's a recording. Whatever you share, it will be shared with those who haven't attended. So, but it will be an experience that others can also learn from. Is there any question or something that is sitting in your heart that you are going through that you would like to put it to a life coach, to us, to a transformation coach, in order for you to be helped with? If you do, please raise your hand, then we can ask and to be asked questions so that we can seek clarity. Anyone? Don't let this moment pass you by, guys. You know, to get hold of Tepo, you will have to wait a month. She is right here right now. Let's try to get her to assist you. Anyone? Elijah, do you have any more questions?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, well, so it's a bit of two, but just a framework we're thinking around where one positions themselves, I don't know if it applies to this chat now, as an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur. So those two of whether, I think it also comes back to Sipo's thing about, are we going into entrepreneurship because we think that's the way it should be, but rather when you are actually an entrepreneur and should stay in a company. Yeah, so I don't know if that is a question in itself, but yeah. And then with that is a situation of the whole chasing 2 rabbits, you'll catch none. How does one decide which rabbit to catch?
That's a good one. Entrepreneur and intrapreneur. I would like to believe that the entrepreneur is the one that, I mean, you can be an entrepreneur in the corporate world because you are supported and you are losing another person's resources and you are well supported. Unlike an entrepreneur who has to support themselves, they have to make their own decisions. Whether they are wrong or right, they have to back themselves up. So would you like to attend to that, Tsepo? What Elijah is saying?
Yeah, and Elijah, I think for me to be an entrepreneur doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be running your own business. I think if I had a company, I would like to have a group of entrepreneurs with that mindset, as opposed to somebody who just comes in and checks in boxes and then goes home. And I think part of maybe the preparation, if one has got desires to be entrepreneurs, is to actually exercise that mindset within a space where you've got support, because then you can take more risks if you're allowed to. It depends on the culture. And I think, you know, you can have that mindset where you can question things and be a disruptor, you know, and so that gives you an opportunity to actually exercise. I don't think you have to wait until you have your own business to be an entrepreneur. But I do believe that being an entrepreneur, even in the corporate field, is actually, I think, almost like something that's a responsibility to the company, but also a responsibility to ourselves. I don't know if that answers your question.
Do you feel answered, Elijah?
Yeah, it does. Thanks. Just clarity, just a different perspective. Just bouncing it out. Everyone else.
Lovely.
You had a second question. I think Elijah had a second question.
I can't remember it.
I
can't remember it. But looking at what is happening now with most people who are losing their jobs and they find themselves in an environment where even when they're not ready to go into entrepreneurship or self-employment, they have to go because they have to attend to the issue of the stomach. So I know that there's a difference between a self-employed or an entrepreneur. Vusi Tobeko is good at explaining that. However, how can I, even when I'm going into a territory that I wasn't ready for, but life pushes me towards, still build resilient in it, or still build coping mechanism when things doesn't go according to the picture I have in my head?
Yeah. I think part of it, Puseletso, is that, as I said, the one certainty that we have in our lives is uncertainty. And so we might find ourselves in a situation where we don't always plan, or we don't always anticipate where we might find ourselves, but life might land you in a certain position, as you say, with COVID-19. Unfortunately, I don't think one can just kind of wake up in the morning and be an entrepreneur. I think it's a process, it's a readiness, it's understanding what that is about. I think anyone can buy and sell, but are you a true entrepreneur? So I think for me, it's not a loose word of somebody who is trading or somebody who is selling something. I think being an entrepreneur comes with we spoke about some of the characteristics and some of those qualities. Is how do you then, start could be, you need to feed your stomach. So you need to be doing something, as in like maybe buying or selling or like I'm selling a service. But part of it is understanding what's my purpose? What is it that I'd like to offer? How am I going to do it? What is needed? What is the industry about? And learning that and preparing myself as I chatter the journey, because I might not have the chance to wait to develop and understand what it is. But I think it's quite important that even when one finds themselves in that situation, that you equip yourself with all the necessary skills and all the necessary support and help to then journey into being an entrepreneur. Some people have it and they have an idea and they go, but for some of us, it takes a developing and a building, and it can be a process. So I don't want people to just think it can be like an automatic thing and you wake up and you're an entrepreneur. I don't think it applies that like that to everyone.
Not true. Thank you so much, Megan. She just reminded us what Elijah said. He was talking about two rabbits. Which rabbit do you go after if you are presented with two opportunities? How do you get to choose which one is the best? Something of that sort. I think that is what Elijah was asking earlier on.
Yeah. Elijah, I think for me, the question would be, what is your concern? What is important for you? Because I think sometimes stopping to ask ourselves that question as to what is important, what is it that is missing in my life that I would like to fulfill, and then saying what opportunity actually matches that. Or some people have the strength to chase both. I don't think it's an either or. I think it can be either you choose the one that it will be meaningful for you. So what is important? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What fulfillment are you looking for if it's about fulfillment? And the other, is there something that you need to do at the same time? Or could you stagger, and have one rabbit running ahead of the other as you're exploring the other one? Or some people have got the ability to chase both. So I don't think there's a specific answer as to how you do it, but I would say what is most important for you at that time.
That is nice. I love the way you have put it, because it differs from person to person, our ability to cope and also multitask, because there are people who are running multiple projects at the same time, and they can do it so beautifully. It's just that they know how to put systems in place, how to put the resources in place. They know how to navigate themselves through the industries that they are diversifying themselves into. So I would like to really believe that today's session has enlightened us, especially in understanding that there are different types of emotions that we go through. In my discussion with you yesterday, you spoke about the 6 basic mood, behavior, and thoughts. Am I right?
There's the 6 basic moods, and that was around acceptance, resentment and acceptance, resignation or ambition, anxiety or curiosity and wonder.
And as a recap as well, and how did you say we can use these moods to build resilience?
Yeah. So those moods was really around dealing with facticity. So things that are happening around us that we don't have control over. And it's around, are you opposing facticity, which you cannot change? And what is that doing for you? So what is it getting in the way of? So the mood of resignation, resentment, and anxiety, how is that serving you? What, you know, how does it predispose you to being able to take action to bring about what you need in your life, or to see possibilities and deal with uncertainties? And on the other hand, the mood that could serve you better is being in acceptance. Again, remind us that it doesn't mean that everything is okay and you agree with it. It's just accepting that what it, you know, I can't change what I cannot change. So what is the next step? And it's that, you know, the mood of accepting and moving on. And then the mood of ambition of saying, you know, things are difficult, you know, there's a crisis, this COVID-19. However, I believe that things can be different. So that's a mood, a hopeful mood. And also the most important thing is believing that you yourself can bring about those changes. And then the mood of curiosity and wonder, which is a mood that I call it the mood of lightness. You know, as much as things are difficult, in that it gives you respite to escape and start imagining things. And I believe that curiosity and wonder is the mood of entrepreneurs. It's a mood of innovators. It's a mood of creatives, to be able to elevate yourself in that space where there's a bit of respite, there's a bit of space to actually dream and see yourself in that dream, because then I believe then that will then move you into action. And also, I mean, the other thing that I always say, for me, it's about coordination with others, you know. So when I'm in this mode, I'm thinking about who can I talk to, what can I do with whoever. Oh my goodness, imagine if we could get together and do this. And I know it sounds very light and very easy, but that is what that mood does for us. It's a mood of lightness, as opposed to a mood of heaviness, and a mood that places us where we believe we can't do a thing, nothing can change, things are just terrible and they're going to continue to be terrible. We're not able to take action when we are in that mode.
Yeah, lovely. It has been such a great pleasure having you here. Thank you for accepting this invite. We will probably knock at your door again, because this journey is long. There will be times that we need to come and unpack other things, because what you are doing, you have just given us the taste of what you can assist us with. There is more to it. However, I would like to give you this opportunity to just give us the parting words. What is your message to the attendees today when we go back, especially in this topic of building the resilience in entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah. You know, I think for me, it's around resilience, being agile, being flexible. And I think also, I think in being flexible and agile is that we are able to be propelled to try and do something, as opposed to being stuck. So when I'm feeling stuck, do I understand what is going on for me? You know, spending time. I mean, there's something that I do, which is called, you know, I have an emotional diary. So for the week, I tap into what is going on for me. Am I aware of the mood that I'm in? And I think the biggest thing is awareness, building awareness, and also finding practices to support you through the process. There's a lot on the internet around mindfulness. You know, I believe this is a time when we do need to develop those practices where we take time out to build and deposit back into ourselves. I think a lot, you know, COVID-19 has taken a lot away from us. It's where do we find the spaces and the possibilities to put back and just to reflect, think, and then reach out where we need to then get help. Let's be humble enough to say, I don't know, I can't, and let's be vulnerable enough to ask for help. And there's a lot of help out there. I think it takes courage to be vulnerable. And that's my parting shot.
It takes courage to be vulnerable. So guys, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. This is fantastic. I think everybody is echoing my words to say this is a wonderful session that we had today. There are many more to come. I believe that Audrey Makumela, she's back at work. She will be sharing the information of upcoming sessions, and we will be meeting again. And I hope you commit yourself to this, getting dirty with entrepreneurship, because we are going to unpack different topics that are affecting us in our businesses and equip you with a lot of skills and knowledge that will help you grow. So Puseletso is saying, thank you for this session, team. It seems amazing. I can't wait to implement some of the suggestions. And Sipo as well is thanking you, Tepo, and myself for this wonderful event that we hosted, and also for a great year ahead for everyone. And Megan and the team and everybody who has made this event possible, I would like to say thank you very much. This is a great way of starting a year. May each and everyone who was part of this wonderful event be blessed, and let us grow in our area of commitment, and let us serve in our purpose. I would like to say good evening, everyone, and may God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.